Good afternoon. To today's jewelry lesson for profit is going to be on this little earring set that we're going to build. So stay tuned here, and you'll need your jeweler's saw. You'll need some 20 gauge sheet metal, sterling silver if you're working in silver, or you can use copper as well. You'll need copper wire, but I'm using starlinium, sterling silver wire. If you want to get some of that, it doesn't tarnish very fast. It will tarnish, but not as fast as it would if it was fine silver or just plain sterling. You can get this on our website. We need to get some wire. I think 24 gauge, and we're going to use this kind of wire right here. This is 24 gauge. You'll need some little beads. These are jade beads that have a hole drilled through them, and then we're going to use a water pearl that in the center of this, and you'll see as we make this. Now, I didn't draw this out, but just kind of in my head, and I wanted to make this. So you'll need your steel mandrel, and you'll need a flat hammer and your steel plate to flatten this when you're done. And I'll show you how to make a really nice set of earrings for every kind of day use, and it'll have a little bit of Black Hills style look to it, so the earrings will really pop and they won't be just plain old earrings. So let's get started. First of all, we want to take our wire and make a loop, or a big jump ring. So now this is about 4 millimeters, I believe. So use your mandrel. You can use a plastic mandrel if you want. And let's see where we're at here. Right there. So we're right around about 4 millimeters. So you're going to have to start right around 2.5. By the time you shape that, it'll be 4. So let's see if we can get this out a little bit further. So you take your starlinium wire and come up with your mandrel about a size 2.5, or right in that area. Put your thumb on that and just bring it right on around, just like that. Now we want to come up to about a 4. So and clip it off. Now this is this wire is half hard, and I recommend you leave it half hard. I know it's harder to work with. It's not as soft as dead soft sterling silver wire. You can make your stuff with half hard because it polishes up better. It stays in shape a lot better, and you won't be disappointed in it. So okay, now we're going to solder that together. So that's going to be one of the next things. And don't worry about it being perfectly round, because it's not. But we're going to go ahead and solder that. Or a chain nose will work. If you're just starting out with us, we've made quite a few projects, and we're learning how not only to make the jewelry, but we're learning how to make it for profit. And that's not easy to do, because your jewelry has to look, attractive for an individual to buy it. So we're learning how to do that. Alright, follow me over to the soldering pad. Now I use paste solder. A lot of people use chip solder, and that's fine if you have chip. If not, you can get this paste solder. I like it so much better, and I use just one. I think this is medium hard or hard. Alright, we're going to use this little torch, and we're just going to come right in here and circle around that little jump ring where the opening is. and I wanted to make sure. Now we just annealed it a little bit. So, all right. So now we want to put that back on the mandrel. Okay, we are. We're at a 4. So what I would suggest is you start at a size 2 with your 18 gauge wire, because that's what we're using. And I'm just taking it and making it the same. So now we got 2 of these earrings. So the next thing we want to do is we want to cut out a little pattern. And if you'll notice mine, this one's kind of got a little leafy look to it. Let's see if I can come in here just a little bit. There it is. Now we're just going to go ahead and make a little leaf this way, a little half round, a little leaf this way, and a big round here. We're going to drill a hole right through the middle of that, and that's how we're going to hook our earring, our French earring, onto that. And eventually I'm going to show you how to do stud earrings. But when you do stud earrings with sterling silver, you want to use gold post stud earrings. They're a little pricier, but they don't bend, they don't turn your ear green, and they're less chance of you rejecting them unless you're dead allergic to nickel. So, and then you can use a surgical one, but for the time being, we'll just kind of keep going with this. So let me get the saw ready to go, and you'll need your saw. So if you're following along and trying to make this, 18 gauge round wire and 20 gauge sterling silver sheet, and need your jeweler's saw. Okay, next thing you want to do is saw this little flower out, and then we'll make 2 of them. Now, I already cut half of this out so that we could speed up the amount of time it takes to do this. So, which may have not been a good idea. Well, we're not going to be able to. See that? Can you see that? Yeah. Alrighty. By the way, you'll need to probably buy a gross of saw blades, especially if you're just starting out. I sell them too on the website, and I buy them by the thousand, so I get a pretty fair price on them, and I can pass that on to you. Alright, close enough. Alrighty, I got that. So you'll need a little bit of either use a file, and for practical purposes I'm going to try and speed this up just a little bit. And I use these gray corundum wheels, also on my website. Most everything that I do here, you can get it from our website, or if you have a jeweler supply house, you can just order stuff from them, or some places might even have one in their town if it's a big enough city. I'm going to solder that on there just like that. So as I'm going to take a file and just sort of shape this other side a little down a little bit, and that's how we're going to do it. And then we're going to drill a hole right through the middle of that, and we're going to have a little earring hoop there, and then we're going to make the dangles down below. So this should be a simple jewelry project that you can make, and I'm sure that these will sell pretty well. So you'll be prepared to probably make a half a dozen of them or so, and you can make them in different styles, different beads. I like the jade beads, you know, ruby, not ruby, but garnet beads. You can use turquoise. All those look nice. So whatever you have on hand will work just fine. So let me get this trimmed out for you just a little bit, and we'll be right back. Okay, I went ahead and just used a file and filed this just a little bit, just to get it more symmetrical. So it's close enough now, and like I said, it's going to go on the hoop that we made, the earring hoop, and it's going to look just like that. Now I think what we'll do is, I showed you the other day how to shape a wood block into a doming tool. So we're going to go ahead and dome this just a slight curve to it. The reason for that is it's a lot easier to polish it, and the shine from a curve reflects better. And also we want to do a little bright cutting with this, and maybe even a little bit of regal cutting to set the earring off and make it look really sharp. So it's just no end to what you can do with these, by the way. You could file this out a little rounder here, and put a head in this and set a stone. And eventually I'm going to show you how to set stones. They're not that hard to do. So just a few tools and some burrs and a little bit of a flex shaft, and you're in like flint. So, but right now let's go ahead and see if we can make another one of these and get it close, so we can make a set of earrings with this. Okay. What I've done is I went ahead and glued this one onto my 20 gauge sterling silver, and then I sawed out the second one, and I shaped it as close as I could to the first one, and close enough that you won't be able to tell it from ear to ear side. So the next thing we want to do is get ready to start soldering some stuff, and see what we come up with in the end. So let's get going with the soldering job, and how we're going to do it. So I think somewhere on here I made a wood block, so that, and I showed you how to do that with a ball burr, and you could make kind of a dip in it so that you can cup these your flowers and leaves and stuff like that, because it's real imperative that you get a little bit of a shape to it, so that when you polish it, the silver itself shines back or glares back to you, and then you can't see the imperfections nearly as easy either. So for all this was sterling silver, and we used just scrap sterling silver sheet metal, and moved on from there. So to get this centered. But once you get it centered and get one of these tacked in or soldered in, then you can just go right on the other side, and it's soldered in too now. So there's our little design. Probably a lot of other ways to do this, but I think that was my easiest way to do it, is just lay it upside down. And we have noticed I did curve it just a little bit. Now I couldn't find that little oak board that I made to show you how to do this, but if you don't have a dapping block, just use that and just give it a little bit of a curve, so that when you polish this, it'll really stick out and blossom the earrings. So we'll get another one ready to go, and I'm going to show you how to make a couple more tools as we get going here. I better shut that off. That's kind of expensive. Alright, so this is just a little dapping block, and you're not trying to mash it down. And there you go. Now when you solder these, you remember we have a solder joint right here. So you want to watch and find that solder joint, and you want to turn it upside down. There's going to be some pressure because we peen these out round. So if you actually solder down here where the joint is, it would probably pop apart. So unless you annealed it first, then you might be able to get away with that, but I'm guessing probably not. So this is what we want, is just like that. Now this one, I did this first one upside down, and this one here, I think what we'll try and do is just see if we can solder one side of it on. Alright, got a little paste solder on there. And we'll get our little torch and see whether this will work. Now we can turn it upside down, and we'll get the other side. And then we'll come back and we'll get this side again, just so we know we have a good flow there. Last thing we want to do is get this all done, do some wrinkle cutting or some bright cutting, and then have it break loose or bend or something else. And it does happen. You know, you think you got it all figured out and you don't. But alright, let's see what I got now. Looks to me like we're soldered together. So and there's our two earrings shaping up. What I did is I just pounded them flatter, a little bit flatter. So we don't want to hit too much of that because you'll take the shape out of your earring, the hoop. We don't want to do that. So all right, now we're going to have to get some 24 gauge wire, and we'll make up 3 dangles for it, and I'll get back to you there in just as soon as I get that set up. Okay, all I did is actually melted that little piece together, and I didn't want it to ball. I just waited for it to melt together, and that's the trick. Watch your temperatures. When you start to see it go, that's when you want to get off of it. It's like that. That will be about the same as that one. Perfect. Now we want one slightly longer. Let's see if we can make a second one so you can kind of see how it's done. See how well this actually worked. You know what? That's not quite. Whoa! Watch what you're doing there, Mikey. See how I'm just moving in and out of there? And that's soldered. Or melted. We didn't actually solder, we just melted it. So, next thing I want to do is make it an L shape, just like that. Okay, I'll make three of these. Okay, I've made, and I'll show you what we're going to do next. 3 wires. The pearl strand is going to be down below the 2 jade balls here. The pearl is. Now you could just use a round pearl, or you could buy some costume pearls. I don't believe that if you're going to sell this jewelry, you might as well have it look really beautiful. So that's kind of how that's going to look, and it's going to hang on your earring hoop, which is right here. And now we're going to decorate this a little bit, polish this thing up, and we'll see what we've got. So stand by while we get ready for the next stage. Okay, the next thing we want to do is I want to drill a hole through this piece in the middle for our French ear hook. Now, excuse me, I went ahead and drilled a real small pilot hole. Just in case I missed it, I could correct it by offsetting the drill bit a little bit. But I think I had it hit it pretty close. So I'm just using a piece of wood now. Got my fingers on the piece. Straight up and down. And then we're through. There we go. And that's how we do that. Always if you buy some nice drill bits, be sure that you don't leave them in your flex shaft, because if you do, you absolutely will drop them and they'll break. Then you'll be crying, because these are not cheap. Okay, well, now we got to kind of figure out how we're going to polish that. And I have these little polishers here which work just fine. I I'm going to go ahead and for time and speed, I'm going to use my big polishing machines, and I will show you a little bit after I get this going a little bit. Then we'll come back and finish it up with one of these little buff wheels. But the buff wheel will polish this just fine, and these are not very expensive. Now you'll see how neat this little bit of a dome that we put on this. It just will really shine. See how neat that is? You know, who wouldn't want to buy a nice little set of earrings if you're a girl? I guess men do too, but I'm not one of those. I'm too scared to pierce my ear. I just know that hurts. So you girls out there are far braver than I am. I just, oof. But thank goodness you girls can do it, because I make a lot of jewelry. And here again, we could commercialize this stuff. And by commercializing it, then it would look exactly the same every time. And you would file and shape and get all the imperfections out of your piece before you put it on the market. That's how we did it at the Black Hills Gold factory. And you know, they would build it and cast it out of silver, and then from silver they would retrim it and shape everything until they got just exactly what they wanted. And if they didn't, they would cast it again and start over. But eventually they would get to a fine piece. All the little parts like I'm showing you here we made by hand, they would have stamped those with a stamping machine. And then they would have put it all together that way. And these would have all been tacked on. They would have never been soldered. So we're doing it the hard way. So, and we're not trying to go for a commercial look. We're looking for a custom piece that's handcrafted. So it's going to have a little bit of difference to it. But as you can see now, this is really pretty well polished up. I'm going to go ahead and clean this one. We'll get this other one ready to go, and I will be back to show you the finished product and how what we're going to do here is we're going to make a little design as usual. We need something to help bring this out. You can't quite see what I'm looking for here. I want this to stick out a little bit better. So we'll wriggle cut it, do a couple bright cuts in there, and we'll have a really pretty piece. So stay tuned as I continue to finish this little hoop earrings. Okay, we're in my shellac cup, and you just absolutely have to have some shellac. You can take this shellac and stick it just on like a 3/4 inch piece of dowel rod. You can get that from the hardware stores, or you can buy one of these aluminum deals like I've got here. And they're kind of pricey, but they're well worth the money. And as soon as I get a couple, 3 of them made up, I'll show you how they were made and what the value is of having them. But this is just shellac, and you can buy this shellac from us. What can't you buy, huh? But little bags of it, so you can replenish this as it starts to wear out of there. So using a flat graver, and you can buy these on the website. And I need to do a video here and show you how to grind these and sharpen them. And excuse me, these have to have a mirror finish on them, or they won't leave a real fine bright cut. So we're going to hold this like this, and you bring your blade in, and a wrinkle cut is just done by twisting it back and forth. And the harder you push, the wider your angle, the more the rough look of the wrinkle cut's going to look. So see if I can do this without my glasses here so you can see what's going on. So let's see if I can bring this in just a little bit. Well, if we open this up just a little bit. Okay, we're just going to follow the line, and we're just going to, not hard, I'm just pushing very gently, just a little dab. Nice and straight, just using my wrist back and forth and very softly. See how nice those wriggle cuts are looking? Wouldn't you know it? Pushed just a little too hard and we were almost there. So I wonder if I couldn't just hold it. And nail my finger. I'm just going to come down and frost this little fill right here so it looks nice. Yeah, I think we'll do the top too. Together, and we'll work it together and see if we can get our wriggle cuts down. You can practice on a piece of copper sheet or a little piece of brass. Brass is pretty expensive. You can get it, I don't know, at the Hobby Lobby or someplace like that. You can probably buy a sheet of copper. You could glue it down to a piece of wood, and then you could practice making wriggle cuts on that. And that's not too expensive. So that's just food for thought there. And maybe I'll even set something up like that so you can see how we're going to learn how to do the wriggle cutting. So, but if you're into this a little bit, grab your engraver tools and give it a try. So you won't be sorry with this. Let me go ahead and get this back in the shellac, and we'll see if we can finish it up. Okay, I'm using a anglet graver instead of my flat graver, and we'll see how well that works. Now I've already started, put 1, 2, 3, 4 bright cuts in. Well, I'm going to get my finger out of the way. I think you can see. Okay. Now, I don't know, can you guys see the bright cuts? Let's bring her in a little bit. Let's turn the light on so you can see. I don't have the best camera for showing this off, but I'm wiggling around. I hope you can see the bright cuts that are in there, because that just absolutely made this piece look gorgeous. And I can't wait to get it in the showcase and advertise a little bit on Facebook or somewhere. Ooh, I got that in there pretty tight. I didn't really want it in there that tight. So I have to kind of figure out how I want to get that out of there. These generally just snap right off of there the minute you do this, but it kept pulling out of there while I was trying to do the bright cut, and so I thought, okay, well, we'll drop it down a little deeper. Boy, I dropped it in, and I can't put any heat on this because it'll tarnish the silver. So I'll play with it, just like you guys will. We'll get it out of there. Anyway, we're going to get this done and show you the finished product.